bless you.
Thank you.
In the Buddhist way. I think it's that. I think it's that. What does that look like? There you go. Okay, welcome everybody to the summary review class of ACI 6, which is the Diamond Cutter Sutra. You have the easiest hard class you could ever have about this one. Yeah. This is hard, but you have the easiest hard class about this topic. Okay. We've done ACI 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over the last 3 weeks. And for those of you that are paying attention, there's significance in the color of the bricks. So you missed it. Before we start,
Sashi Bukhi Jishin Metotram Rira Vinchin Degempadi Sangye Shindu Nite Uwagi Drogun Namda Shinla Shupasho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamniyatayami Sangye Shidam Soki Shoknanga Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsushi Daki Shinyen Kipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Udam Soki Shoknanga Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsushi Daki Shinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Shudam Soki Choknamba Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Dahi Shinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Drupasho.
and before you come to, with that vibration in your body, think of your motivation for being in the class today. Think why you're here and not out there lining up at the new museum looking for some silly art. That could have deep meaning. Welcome everyone. Okay, so quick overview. Is this okay? It's a little...
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Really good?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
closer would be better.
Temperature, I'm really hot and sweaty. Is it just me?
No.
Can we put on the air conditioning unit? Yeah, and then I will talk loudly, promise. So, the purpose of this review classes was to give us all a flavor of the 20-25 year monastic system in a Gelugpa monastery over, so we've covered about 12 years worth of data or something, 10, 12 years worth of data in 5 classes. So obviously we're experts at it now, we will be enlightened soon, right? So we've only just touched this thing, but there's something lovely about Westerners and about our capacity to learn and internalize. One piece of advice about today's class is about Prajnaparamita, the perfection of wisdom. It's a deeper level of the understanding on emptiness, and there's no way I'm covering anything in depth in essentially 30 minutes, because the second half of the class is going to be the actual reading out of the sutra, and I've got something for you to hear. But before you hear something, I need to point you to what to listen to, so you can actually hear the sutra, okay? So, what I would like you to do, if I could summarize anything about the idea of emptiness, the idea of lack of inherent existence, the lack of any self-nature in anything, is the words that you're hearing tonight, and the sensations you're feeling tonight, and the company you're being in tonight, and the city you're sitting in tonight, and the body you're occupying tonight, and the mind you're listening to tonight. All that collection of stuff that you're perceiving somewhere, some of you, if you're awake, watch what arises. Watch what you call yourself. Watch what you hear. Don't get the words and go, oh yeah, I know that word, put it over here, put it over there. See if you can step into the words tonight. We've done enough cognitive ideas in ACI 1 when we talked about the three principal paths, when we talked about refuge, this idea of emptiness, of the Dharma jewel, the Buddha jewel, and the Sangha jewel. We've done enough of the thinking. You need to now go into the sensation, into the feeling, into the visceral. And tonight is for that. Because it's not a night for crossing the T's and dotting the I's. I'll cover some ideas, but if you haven't got it tonight, whatever is in you will be projected onto the words and sounds and sensations and so on. So why don't you see what you have? You've built up some merit, you've built up some wisdom already. Let that wisdom come tonight to you. That's my advice. There we go. So we've done ACI 1, three principal parts, which are
Refuge, Bodhichitta,
Renunciation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. See, don't do that. No. Thank you for teaching us. Renunciation, Bodhichitta, and wisdom. Okay, good. We can go home. Now, what's it mean, for you? Renunciation. Something has not worked for you in your life so far, and you should not move on doing the same old, because you're going to get the same old. You should get sick and tired of things not working. At some point, it'll not work enough for you to wake up, begin the Buddha process, the wake up process, and say, I want to fix it. I want to get to the DNA of life and figure it out. So that wish for enlightenment, for Buddha, yeah? I want to do that. And I'm not alone. I have 7 billion creatures that I know are suffering. If I can figure it out, I can help someone, bodhicitta. Yeah? The figuring out, the detail, the thing, the matrix, what is this field I'm in, the perceptual field, which by implication means your real field, that's wisdom. So that's ACI 1, right? So we got that, good, we're all half there. Then you start thinking when things go right and when things go wrong. And when things go right, you take refuge. And if you're a Buddhist, refuge means you think that there's no self-nature in anything that happened, and it only happened because your virtue or your negativity emerged on this field of blankness. You take refuge. Every time a magnificent thing happens, it's not because of that or that or that or that. Yes, that's the vehicle through which you experience that thing. But it's you. Buddha said the work comes from you, your mind, mostly, he said, mind only. That's where the whole mind only idea came from. Buddha said it. Buddha said it's mind only, meaning mostly mind. ACI 2, refuge. So you build a habit of saying whatever stuff happens, whether it's really crappy, take refuge. Meaning it's changeable. It's not self-existent. That's freedom from being locked into the suffering. Yeah? But let's not do the Western thing that we do so well, which is, oh, things went terrible. It's never going to change. If the other things change, so will this one. So when magnificent things happen, take refuge. Wow. And then that's how you multiply that virtue. And to do that, you have to meditate. It's a prerequisite for any kind of insight. the key insights on the paths to enlightenment are in meditation. You get this stepping into this knowing that we are so bad at in 2013 with all the gadgets that's supposed to help us communicate with each other, are supposed to free us from the burden of communicating, from traveling from country to country and talking to each other on the phone and getting on a ship to travel. We can do all these things now quickly with technology, but we are so addicted to that. We are forever at this very surface of, oh yeah, I got that, yeah, I studied that, yeah, I do that. Who's got a practice? A depth practice for a life, an inner practice. This takes discipline, and meditation is that discipline. And there's lots of tricks and lots of techniques. It's Buddha's technology, for magnificent technology for figuring out this field of existence that we are experiencing ourselves in. It's magnificent techniques. It's brilliant technology. I mean, we're catching up to the Buddha with psychology and neuroplasticity and all these ideas. This is brand new to us. We think, oh, we've discovered something. Buddha's been talking about this since 2,500 years ago. And the practice of that is something you develop over time and slowly. So we cover that in ACI 3 with meditation techniques and there's object and blah, 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 blah. But at some point you have to do it. Without doing it, you just blah, blah, blah. Yeah? And then we're busy on the phone. Past and future lives, we tried to prove in a Western way through looking at some debates in ancient India about the proof of the continuum of consciousness. And if you get anything out of that class, is that, you know, you're not stopping. You can be free from the fear that you're going to stop at death. But then here comes the burden of responsibility. If you want a crappy experience next time, use up all your goodness now and just relax and see what comes up. Holy Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Michael's teacher, used to watch the lotto results and laugh when the balls come up. He goes, ha, that's not the karma for your future lives. It's a lottery. Of all your karmas, one of them will be your Nirlangikyu, your projecting luck into the flavor of your next sausage. We talked about that on Tuesday. And then how karma works. You can't talk about emptiness without talking about karma. They're like the opposite. Yeah, things are. If things are blank, what makes them what they are? Where is it? And where's that choice? We all have choice, right? We have second thought choice. We have choice, delayed choice. When an experience comes up, you can fight it all you want, but the experience is already there. You're fighting towards something that's already occurred. And yes, you produce that, and yes, you have choice about that, how you respond to it. But it's already come up. You know, Geshe Michael says it's like dry concrete. You can't fix it once it's hardened. You can mold it a little bit while you've just poured the concrete. You've just planted the seed. You can do some things to give it a shape. But once the concrete's set, you have to live with that in your garden until it deteriorates. But tonight, it's the Diamond Cutter Sutra, yeah? The Prajna Paramita. I found a diamond Lego. Yeah. Okay. Someone made that. So the Diamond Cutter Sutra, we're going to talk about why, the background, the essence behind the sutra at a skim level. I'm just going to give you things to look out for. Can I have my bag? Because we're going to actually listen to the sutra, and that'll take us about 50 something minutes to listen to that. And I want to highlight some important things to listen to whilst we go through. So this will be the first of the class. We're going to do about 20, 25 minutes. Then we're going to take a break. Then you're going to come in and go into depth of realization mode, which means you completely relax in the best way possible. And then we're going to listen to some magnificent stuff that has no label. Here we go. So why know this stuff? How lovely to see Buddhas arriving today. Imperfection of wisdom. Remember we talked about wisdom and bodhicitta. Prajna Paramita, the perfection of wisdom, is the direct perception of emptiness, which means you have because you have renounced your home life, meaning you got some renunciation, yeah? And renounce the home life means you stop being busy about all the stuff and you shed all that stuff. Doesn't mean you leave mummy and daddy, and doesn't mean that. It means intellectually you do. You leave that attachment to that. You've left that. You begin a meditation practice, so you begin to have this understanding of what's occurring in your perceptual field. You look and investigate your reality with the motivation to be free from suffering for the sake of others. Yeah, you're investigating through meditation. And because of that, we'll cover that later on, you will have a direct perception of the ultimate nature of things. If you're doing all the right things, if you put the right courses, you will have the right result. Yeah? And it's one of the laws of karma. If you did the work, you're getting the result. If you planted the seed, you're getting the crop. If you didn't get the crop, you didn't do the seeds. I hate that one. But it is that, so better work with that. When you have that visceral experience, if you've flavored your mind with bodhicitta, and I'm going to assume we have, you will have this direct perception of emptiness because with your mind flavored with bodhicitta. That is the perfection of wisdom. That is the prajnapada. Okay. So that's what's covered in the text that you're going to hear today, and we're going to the emptiness of emptinesses of emptiness. So it's going to get cosmic and magnificent, and I hope your karma is ripened into not just listening to the words, but getting something that transcends your limited perception of how we are together and what this world is and what this city is and who I am and what my person is and what my life is, etc. I hope it's an unstoppable seed that enters your consciousness and it ripens into the diamond. So let's talk about the lineage. Of course, this was bless you by Lord Buddha 500 BC. And then we have, of course, Master Vasubandhu, who lived at 350 AD, and he wrote a very important book, one of the 5 big books that we've been studying.
Illumination of the Path?
Huh?
Illumination of the Path?
No.
Treasure House of Higher Knowledge.
Sorry?
Treasure House of Higher Knowledge.
In Sanskrit, Abhidharma Kosha, very much. Thank you very much. He has a brother, you know. That's also a Monty Python sketch, we won't do that. And Master Kamala Shila also wrote an Indian commentary. So these are the 2 Indian commentaries on this magnificent teaching from the Buddha on the emptiness of emptiness. I mean, it's the Heart Sutra, and this is one of the most important texts in Asia. It gets read out at homes in Mongolia. Everybody has it on their altar. It's a big. The first ever printed book on this planet was this. It's found in China. I think they found it 800 AD. This thing, yeah, the Diamond Cutter Sutra. They call it the Diamond Sutra. Mistakenly forgot to put the word cutter, okay, when we translate it into English. And then we have a commentary. I couldn't find a picture of Chonyi Dragpa Shedra, who was a master at Saramay Monastery. We have a commentary from that, thanks to the work of Geshe Michael Rinpoche, etc., digging up texts throughout the world after monasteries and libraries were bombed and burned in China. Many of these books were missing, and we just talk about it like that. But 25 years ago, 30 years ago, people knew, Tibetans memorized this text, but there was no copy to be found. And so people went digging in ancient libraries and private collections, and the work goes on to this day. And were it not for that, we could not study this stuff to the depth and confirmation that we have now to go and get these commentaries translated properly rather than from memory, etc. So it's what makes that happen in your life and mine. So, any questions? Good. The Dharmakala Sutra. Sanskrit is Vajracharika. In Tibetan is Dorje Chupa. Tonight we're going to cover 4 parts generally. I'm going to try to give you a quick about the sutra and the context of the teaching, and then we're going to look for in in the actual sutra, we're going to look for how it describes emptiness and karma, emptiness and the direct perception, emptiness and freedom, nirvana, removal from suffering, etc., etc., Buddhahood. So I'm going to talk about the Bodhisattva Buddha, and I'm going to talk about all these things that this dialogue occurs in the sutra between a senior student, or they call him a junior monk, who's actually a senior student, and the Buddha discussing all these topics. And I'll just give you a quick insight into that. Any questions? Good. The Diamond Cutter Sutra. Why use the word diamond? So here is three metaphors to the word diamond. Diamond, we keep saying, is a synonym for emptiness. And the reason being is because a diamond on this planet is the closest thing to an ultimate that we can find. So it's a metaphor for understanding the ultimate nature of reality. So apparently this metaphor comes naturally if you're getting enlightened on this planet. So the hardest substance, the closest thing to an absolute is a diamond. Nothing can smash a diamond, nothing can, except another diamond can cut another diamond. So the closest thing to the most ultimate on this planet is a diamond. And the ultimate of ultimates is emptiness. So when you have a visual experience, a direct, in meditation, understanding, perception, direct experience of this thing, which is the substrate of all existence, the thing that everything has, is, the metaphor of the diamond will come. It's also, the diamond is totally clear, unlike glass, for example, that if you put it to the side, you will see the green side or the blue side of glass, you can tell it's glass. If you had a wall of diamond that was as big as this room and you couldn't see the edges, you wouldn't be able to know that there was something between us. It was a pure diamond because of its molecular structure. And every fragment, if you smash it at a molecular level, and I couldn't find the picture, I found the picture when I taught the diamond cutter at length, that I couldn't find the picture again, and you will see that the way diamonds fragment, every piece has the same break point. And so every fragment is equal to every other part of the diamond. And like that, emptiness, every object in your universe is empty of having in any existence from its own side. Meaning there is nothing in the stuff that forces a perception on any perceiver. The perceptions of objects, whether physical or mental, only comes from the perceiver. Every single thing is empty of, and every object's emptiness is exactly the same, like a shard of diamond is exactly the same as all the other shards of diamond. So that's why the title itself is enough to describe emptiness. So why the cutter, and why is it so important? Because although a diamond is a magnificent metaphor for this ultimate, the direct perception of reality smashes the diamond, cuts the metaphor, it's even though the metaphor of the diamond is the closest thing to an ultimate, it's so far away that it's not close at all. Even though it's the closest thing. Does that make sense? So because of that, the direct perception of emptiness cuts the metaphor of the diamond, cuts the diamond. So therefore, the word cutter is vital to the translation of Dorje, Chupa, or Bhadra Charika, because it's got Charika, cutter. It's actually in the sutra. Yeah. So it's important to know that. What is emptiness empty of? So what is the thing that we're saying doesn't exist? And this is the gaccha. Remember this?
Yes.
Yeah. And I wrote this confusingly on purpose because you have to use double negatives to describe something that doesn't exist. When you go looking for the thing that things are empty of, the self-nature, the self-existing thing, the nature of Hector that is in this thing. There is a Hector-ness to this, right? If there's a Hector-ness to this thing, then everything looking at this thing must say, oh, there's Hector. But they don't. Sometimes they say, there goes a really funny person. Often they say that. Yeah, most of the time. Except for the nature of my funniness, no. So we are denying the existence of something that could never exist anyway. And that's why you will find in many of the Dharma, much of the Dharma, especially when talking about engines, are double negative. Because you're saying that thing that could never exist doesn't exist. That thing that isn't a real thing isn't there. So you're talking about negating the impossible. So it's like you have to use the double negatives. Also, there's something I believe, and I haven't quite got my teeth around it. I believe that the Buddha understood or communicated an essence about the nature of the way human minds perceive objects through a double negative. You're forced and pushed to think of something else when that thing is negated. And that's another story. Yeah? So, did you know Harry Potter? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then who talks to the Buddha at the beginning of the sutra? Subhuti. Yeah? So Subhuti's first question to the Buddha, after the Buddha goes, gets dressed, goes out, you hear it, says, hey, a bodhisattva. And I think in the translation that we're going to hear today, they don't call them a bodhisattva, they say a man or woman of noble birth, or a person of noble birth or noble family who wants to achieve freedom, get to enlightenment. How should they think? How should they act? How should they practice? That's how he begins. Yeah? So okay, let's say I believe you, Buddha. Yeah? Let's say what you're saying is true. And I want that. I want freedom from suffering. I really want to figure it out. It's possible. I believe you now. But okay, now what should I do? How should I be placing my thoughts? How should I hold my thoughts? If everything you told me is true, how should I perceive them? And therefore, how should I act? How should I practice with this stuff you've given me? That's the beginning of the sutra. And let's see if I've got this stuff. And then the Buddha says, so this is the stuff you should be listening to when we listen, okay? So you hear that at the beginning, the Buddha goes, oh, very good, Subhuti. So very good, what a great question, yeah? That you asked. I'm about to tell you something so important, you better pay attention. It is of the utmost importance you pay attention. You better listen to this stuff because it will free you, yeah? And so he starts saying, you want to think about every living being. And then he starts describing, I don't know if you came to that class, beings born from moisture, warmth and moisture, born from an egg, born from womb. So he's describing all the ways we can be born, all the kinds of beings. And then he says, well, there's another division of beings, those with form and those without form. And then he starts describing, he's basically saying, you think there's this amount of beings? Forget it. Your limited perception lets you see this amount of beings. So he says, there's the beings born from womb, from an egg, yeah, and the warmth and moisture are mosquitoes, because they would see them at the time, so he would describe them as born from moisture, right? And I couldn't put all the form and formless beings, but you get the idea, right? So he says, you think about all those beings, yeah, all those beings. You thought there were many beings. There are innumerable beings. This planet, more planets. Form realm, formless realm, desire realm. You think there's just a human realm, an animal realm? There's a hell realm, and ghost realm, and god realm, and demigod realm. There's so many beings like you. There's so many beings. So you first have to think of all them. And then you have to think you're going to take them to nirvana. Freedom from suffering. Your job, if you really want to know how to act and think and so, you're going to have to think how to get them all to nirvana. It's like, wow. Yeah? Big deal. And so he then begins to use the example in the sutra of the perfection of giving. And so you use the idea of giving, one should give and one should do this, but he's not just meaning giving, he's meaning you should practice all the 6 perfections. He's giving as the example of one of the ways a bodhisattva should think. So what are the other 6 perfections? The other 5 perfections? The first one is giving or generosity. So imbuing your being with this impulse to give. The second one is?
Ethics, morality.
Ethics or morality. Yet staying in your code of, to simplify it, like Jesus said, treat others like you'd want to be treated. Yeah? That can simplify the ethics. Joyful effort, which means be happy when you're doing good things. Like, be happy. Don't sit there and go, oh, I have to do this good thing now. Because it'll color your mind. You're planting a karma. You're going to get a good result. And that good result's going to feel crappy. You're going to get a good result, you're going to get money, or you're going to get a house, or whatever the good result is, and it's going to feel bad. If you, so get rid of that. You have to have this joyful effort, this, this is fun. And that's a habit too, it's just a view. Yeah, nothing's fixed. What's the fourth one? Patience. And does it mean you should be really good at sitting waiting for the train?
Not getting angry.
It just means don't get angry when you're supposed to on this planet. Don't lose it when you usually should. Like, I nearly did it in traffic the other day. The horns were just everywhere. Beep, 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 beep. I think I told you guys, 2 blocks or 3 blocks, someone followed and just was beeping all along. And I'm like, oh, this is patience and joyful effort. You know, like I was really struggling. Patience is not getting angry when you're pushed to, when you're hookable. Yeah? Knowing where you're hookable and knowing that this joy of I'm overcoming that thing. Patience. It doesn't mean get really good at waiting. Don't do that. Yeah? And then you have 2 more. Concentration. So perfecting the meditation. Gom. Yeah? Which means what's Gom? What's one of the ways, the Tibetan translations of meditation? Contemplation. Another one? That says type. In Australia you shouldn't do that. It means habituate, to get used to. Yeah? So that's interesting, because if meditation means getting used to, what are you getting used to? Right? So you're getting used to the other perfection. So it's a good way to look at it. And then lastly is the perfection of wisdom, which is Prajna Paramita. Yeah? Okay, so I don't know how we got there. How we get there? Oh, because he's going to talk about giving with Prajna Paramita, with wisdom, but he's meaning you've got to think about the other perfections as well. He's not just saying, if you want to be a Bodhisattva, just give. He's like, if you want to be a Bodhisattva, you have to have the 6 perfections. I'll give you examples with the perfection of giving, but you should be doing the same with wisdom and with meditation and with joyful effort and etc. etc. Yeah? Good. So then they're getting to this discussion about imagine if you give. He starts doing this comparison. Imagine if somebody gave as much as there could be to be given, and he does beautiful, beautiful world system description from the Abhidhamma Kosha. It's like, imagine every world system, every galaxy within this universe, yeah, and then multiply that by 1,000 of 1,000 of 1,000. Because imagine that was each sand of grain in the Ganges River. And each sand of grain in the Ganges River contained a Ganges River full of that many sand grains. And each one of those. And imagine if someone gave the biggest riches they could think of to the highest object they could give it, as many as there are sands of grains in the sands of grains of the Ganges Rivers. Yeah? Imagine what karma that would be, Subhuti. What an awesome karma. He's saying a single act of giving with Prajna Paramita, with the understanding of the stuff that's in the sutra, is innumerable goodness compared to that lesser act of giving all the sands of grains of goodness to someone. He's saying giving with the understanding of emptiness, giving with the Prajna Paramita insight, doing that act and remember any of the other perfections, is immeasurable compared to a normal act of giving, even if that act of giving is as big as all the Ganges rivers of all the giving away. Yeah? If you mounted planets upon planets with gold and treasures and the 7 treasures and so on. Because that's nothing compared to the effect on your mind and your experience of a being, of you as a being, should you do a correct act of giving with Prajnaparamita. He's saying, the Buddha's saying this to Subhuti. Yeah? So then he goes, well, what about if you perceive a Buddha? He starts describing the bodies of a Buddha. He starts saying, can you perceive a Buddha because of my Buddha body? Because I have this thing on my head, or I have all the marks and all the signs, and we covered that in the class. He goes, should you perceive a Buddha because you see those things? In other words, are those things self-existent in what we call a Buddha? And so he's checking to see if Subhuti understands the question. And right throughout the sutra, right throughout this thing, you will hear the Buddha get to Subhuti and us, by implication, the understanding over and over and over and over. He says, if you think it's self-existent, you're finished. The only way that this thing can give you ultimate results if you see the emptiness of it. So the whole sutra is about, if you think that a Buddha is all this stuff self-existently, you're just silly. The only way you see a Buddha is understanding the emptiness of your mind. So then he goes into that. So for those of you who are interested, you have the Rupakaya, the Dharmakaya, the Andronika, there's blah, blah, blah. Yep. But then Subhuti goes, oh, okay, I get it. This is really important. This is talking about future lives. Yeah, get the metaphor there? Yeah, it's future Rama. Okay. Did I have to explain that really? Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Okay, good. Thank you. See, there are Buddhas. Okay. So then Subhuti asks, okay, this is awesome. You are teaching us a thing that covers all the teachings you've ever given us. This emptiness thing, to the way you're explaining it now, is so incredible, and I can see how it can produce Buddha bodies, and it can produce my Buddhahood, etc., etc., freedom from suffering, etc. But what about of these teachings? Will there be people in the future who understand these things? And then the Buddha himself predicts the end of his teaching. So if you read the end of the Abhidhammakosha, the last chapter, it talks about the destruction of this world and the sun, supernovas, and blah, 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 blah. And he says, there will be a time when no one can get these teachings. So the Buddha predicts that even the life of this understanding on this planet will grow and finish like everything. It's a coarse thing. And it's really sad and it's really terrible to think of that. And so there's 2 types of dharmas, right? There's 2 types of knowledge. There's the written books, and then there's the insight that we get from these ideas. There's all the blah, 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 blah that we're conceptualizing, and then there's all this stuff, all the ahas that serve you and stay with you and stick with you after your body disappears, after the brain drops off. Your mind continues that karma. So which of those goes first on the planet? The realizations or the books?
The realizations.
The realizations. So he says there'll come a time where there won't be enough people with the realizations in their heart to be able to transfer this information to each other that we're doing here. That will go first. And secondly, so there'll be books in libraries and people won't know what they mean. So people will look at Dharma and they won't know what they mean. And we're close to that. I mean, if someone says, so the opening of the Heart Sutra, Arya Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, doing deep Prajnaparamitas, perceive the senseless emptiness of all 5 aggregates. Shariputra. All dharmas are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, neither lacking, nor complete. Therefore, Shariputra, emptiness is not form, not sensation, not perception, not formations, not consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, and no forms or sounds or smells or tastes or touches or dharmas at all, no realm of eyes until we come to know mind consciousness realm, etc., etc., etc. You guys know what that means. You guys were able to connect to that, what that means. That's written somewhere. You've got, oh, emptiness is not form, oh, it's not sensation, oh, he's talking about the five aggregates. You get that. The Buddha says that is gone from the planet at some point. And people are left with this bizarre text that they hold in libraries, but nobody can get the meaning from the teachers or not. The Dalai Lama said recently at a thing we saw in DC, I think, in Maryland, he said, you know, he went and blessed a statue, a gold statue, it was big, big, big statue. He goes, that statue, it will be there for 1,000 years, but he can't teach you anything. He can't give you that. This gives you the aha. So the realizations will go first, the Buddha predicts, and then there's all these other sutras describing how long it will go, etc. And what's beautiful here, what really gives me chills, is that there's this sutra called, sutra requested by the goddess of flawless light. They predict in that sutra that the teachings will remain for 2,500 years after the Buddha's passing in India. And then they'll go, or in the East, and then they'll go to the land of the pinkish face or reddish, ruby-faced people. I think I put Rudy, yeah? We're the Rudy people. And it means Westerners. In Tibet and the East, it means us Westerners who have a little bit of a reddish complexion. And Choni Lama, he says that, yeah, and then there's, in that sutra it says it'll last another 2,500 years. So in essence, the conclusion about all the debates about how long will the Dharma stay, how long will these books and realizations stay for people to wake up? The final answer is 5,000 years, but about 2,500 years after the Buddha's passing, around now, it'll jump from the East to the reddish-faced people. It's magnificent, lovely, it gives me hope. And then there'll be people here who can get it. But when Subhuti asks, will there be people in the future who get this? Like we get it listening to you, Lord Buddha. The Buddha gets angry at him. Don't utter such words. Don't ask such a stupid question. Which self-existent people in the future will get these teachings? There aren't any self-existent people, you idiot. Yeah? I'm sure he didn't say that. Okay. So then, you will hear in the sutra over and over and over the Buddha and Subhuti describing this idea of no self, no being, no life, and no person. Yeah? And if you are going, do you remember the teaching on me and mine that we had at Karma? This is referring to that, to me and mine. So when you hear the idea of, when you hear the words no self, no living being, no life, no person, over and over and over, it refers, Master Kamalashila says, you apply to that you that you think does not come from a projection. When you think of a self, it's that self-existent me, I am like this. Not me as I am because I'm forced to see myself that way because that's a production of my karma. If that's a production of your karma, you are not a fixed thing, this self of mine. This living being is all the stuff that belongs to me. He's saying anything that belongs to you self-existently, yeah, that's where you apply this prajnaparamita, this idea of emptiness. And then this idea of a life, over one lifetime, you have this life, it belongs to you, this is my life. That's also a projection. The whole idea that you have a continuum, you are nothing like the thing you were born. You are nothing like the thing you were born. And we think we are. You are nothing like the thing you were born. The knowledge inside you is nothing like the thing you were born. The memories inside you are nothing like the thing you were born. The body that you think is you is nothing like the thing you were born. And next week you're not going to be this either. You think you are. We have pictures of me when I was 5. That wasn't you. This is you. Who is this? You. Self-existently, like this, through a life. So that doesn't exist like we think it exists. We think it exists solid, fixed out there. It doesn't exist like that. It exists as a projection, moment to moment, in the now. So when we hear the Buddha saying no self, no being, no life, no person, he's referring to this one line. And for a person, he's referring to this idea that an entity over lifetimes exists. So that's for the Easterners who think, okay, or for us who are beginning to understand and unravel the idea of reincarnation and the continuation of mind as a person, as a thing, as a being. Also a projection. So it gets really deep about the application of Prajnaparamita, and it doesn't just leave it to this life. And I'm going to fix this life, and then I'll be free. Here we go. We talked about last week about the 3 spheres. Is that up? Oh yeah. Remember there was the doer, the doing, and the doee.
Subject.
It's subject. Yeah. So whenever you're doing, so remember he uses the act of giving. So the idea of, he will keep using, when you give, or when you, the thing you give and the being to which you give, etc. That's just an example for how you do the ethics and how you do patience. And there's this 3 spheres idea. So the whole idea of doing anything, like giving, if you hold your best understanding of emptiness, of course the ultimate, if you have it, as you are doing, you observe yourself as, am I this, who is this thing that sees itself giving? Do I have this kind of nature to be me? What is this capacity to give? That has no nature. And yet you have this visceral, I'm giving. Then this whole act of, I transfer someone to someone else and they get, that then get, that thing has no nature either. So he goes into depth about that. So just listen to that and understand that this whole complex web that we're living has no nature, and yet it functions perfectly to give us this solidity and these connections and this movement. Like we do feel happy and we do feel sad and things do move and you do think you're a person and you do have connection with each other. Where is this coming from? It has no nature. This is what it means to be so very fortunate to have these things in your karmic pocket. And if you look at the world this way, if you look at the world with this philosophy, and this is what the Buddha said, he said, I've seen how things function, guys. You can figure it out too. If you look at the world this way, if you experience it from that nature, not from the outer solid nature, this world can be magic. You could be in the supermarket aisle and experience it with the fires of bliss. There's nothing in the supermarket aisle. Well, I'm rushing. So, I need to tell you quickly about the 5 paths. Are we there yet? Here we go. Okay. So, the 5 paths, just quickly, this is the career of a being who evolves their experience of being to a point where they perceive themselves to be enlightened. So if the mind is empty of having a nature of its own, how would you say the emptiness of an Arya's mind would function? Imagine being an Arya, you've seen emptiness directly, you have no doubt that this is the way things are, you've seen your future lives, you've come down from that experience, and you now know what to do next. You enter the path of habituation. What's the emptiness of that mind?
It's the same as the emptiness of your...
It's the same, except if you seem to be who you seem to be, think that I've got troubles and things don't work and I'm sure of that. And the emptiness of an Arya's mind is like, I've just seen freedom. I'm certain of that. I can get out of it, for sure. And it functions that way, just like ours functions this way. That's the emptiness of an Arya's mind. And someone at the 8th Bodhisattva level, the emptiness of their mind will go, I have no more mental afflictions. You have a forced perception because of your past karma. There's no nature to that mind. It's empty of that nature. You have a forced perception that you no longer have suffering. Oh my God, I just removed the last subtle suffering. It was always there. It was you are forced to have that perception. And you can't have that perception if you didn't count the karmas. It's lovely. Okay, I won't go through the lumps. Okay, little warning before we go to a little break. There's this yucky and lovely warning that says, those that listen to these words, those that really get some meaning, they will surely suffer, and they will suffer deeply. Well, the Buddha says this. Yeah. Well, what's that mean? Yeah, you will surely suffer. If you really get these ideas, there will be suffering. And so what he's talking about here is purification. He's saying, remember we did the 4 forces of purification when we did the karma on Tuesday? He's saying that because, look how amazing this is, because you now see through the veil of illusion, you get a prajna paramita experience, whether cognitive or visceral, yeah? Because you now touching the ultimate reality, your karmas get purified, but you can't escape the result of karma. So what would have been a terrible accident or a horrible thing will be emerged because you've now electrified it with wisdom, and you will have a lesser headache over a period of time. The way you recognize these karmas that they're talking about here is that it's like an unnatural, overwhelming push of suffering for a short temporary time. That's my words, not the Buddha's words, to describe something that took me a while to explain. And then we're talking about, this sutra then talks about Madhyamika, the middle way. And just for those of you who know, once you understand or begin to think about emptiness, your mind will be forced to one of these 2 extremes. They call these 2 cliffs. Yeah? The cliff of self-existent, of saying things exist solid out there. And 99.9% of beings on this planet think that way. Yeah? And then once you get some education that there is a complete other reality, and that all of a sudden, it was always there, all of a sudden you stepped into this understanding of the world that was always in your mind anyway, and it's describing this whole ultimate experience. Once you get some of that education, your mind will now go to that extreme sometimes. Nothing exists. So it's only stupid Buddhists who go to the nothing exists side. Yeah, not people aren't sitting in the checkout aisle going, nothing exists. They're all sitting there going, that exists and I want it, and that exists and I want it. Yeah? And it's only the semi-educated Buddhists or the limited educated people on the ultimate nature of things, or yogis even, who are like getting super intellectual about it and go, oh, there's nothing existing in this fire. Shit, it's burning. You know? So these are the 2 cliffs. And Madhyamika, the middle way, is the middle way between these 2 cliffs. Yeah? So you hear that. And Pabonka Rinpoche said something awesome about it. So before we start, here we go. Let's go there first. Sorry. We'll take a break. We'll be back in 10 minutes with a complete relaxed state of mind. We'll go there. Completely relaxed state of mind. 10 minutes. And get ready to listen to all this stuff we just seeded in your mind. Any questions? Good. Thank you.
Where are these from downstairs?
I do not. I'm happy with my Lego book. Whoever got me that? Who got that? Is that you? Oh my God, that was just amazing. Thank you. Can I open it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I used to a lot.
It's so good.
Craving of flavor.
I know, this is really sad.
It is so good.
Do you please still have that?
Oh, thank you so much.
I used to like play sports.
Yeah, no, me too.
I am so
And then
happy.
my sister and I would have
Yeah, can you with the sound because I think yeah, I think it's just the adjustment on the trouble.
Is that a
Trouble.
Me too.
I love like.
Oh,
That was an equal
well,
opportunity.
yeah, you never relax.
That was an equal opportunity twice later.
Good. Me too, man. My parents used to let me play with fake guns. That was
Like laser guns. I'm actually not listening.
Sorry?
No, we were
We're talking about toys.
I was an equal opportunity toy player, which is like the mother would let me play with toy guns. And I'm like, no, I have a lot of them. A lot of them.
Really?
Yeah, and I
Wow.
always.
Do you want to try this stuff?
Yes.
Hold on. Yeah, I want to play Legos too.
Oh, this is terrible.
They're like expensive now, actually.
They're so expensive now.
Lego?
Yeah.
Did you see this? It's so nice. Check it out. Nice to see you, David. Isn't that the best?
No, I got it, because I always use these journals. Moleskines, yeah. I need a new one, and it's right there. I was like, how can I not get it?
I'm going to press play and tell me if you can hear it. I'm at the loudest I can be. Yeah, it's such a pleasure. Yeah, that's the goal. There's no other place to have it. Yeah, I would like that. I'm going away tomorrow morning first thing, and I will get the plans there. And then we start US Thursday. It's actually a lovely course on what's it about. It's actually beautiful, so it explains the meaning behind it's about, so you don't just do it. It's actually something something about others, basic. Yeah, good. It's a nice song there. You get levels and levels. We thought we wanted to get out of New York, so we were looking at the place today. Steve and I, she's getting together. Yes. Really?
So I think that makes her feel like she's actually bringing something to the table. That also made it
but stuff went in. He left school, the ashram was upstairs. Okay, wow, check that out. Where is it? You got one. Good? Wow, that looks good. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, I'm in.
like 4 or 5.
That's much better. Yes.
Yeah, that could be funny as an individual.
Next week I'm traveling.
Okay.
On Thursday, I'm not interested in going. Thursday. From now on, it's only Thursday. This is the last of the
Right. Sure, yes. That's great song.
She meets Sandra, she's a really nice person.
Hi, how are you? Hey, Billy. Nice to meet you. Billy. Billy, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Yes, indeed. Actually, it's my now 4th time here. I've been practicing for about a year now, and I've never been to this class. Oh, okay. I can talk about things in the same. I was like, I might as well. I have to miss Tuesdays, unfortunately.
So your man was sitting on kind of.
And he wasn't. This started, I guess, a week or two ago. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so
And I was going through it.
His body, yeah.
So you can miss it for a month and come back. Yeah, well, that's right. I walked in and he was just like, see you. This company is great. He's an amazing dude. But it's always it's funny to see actually experience him outside.
About a week ago.
The real level here.
I was walking out.
Yeah, no, I know. I kind of come
And
against
I was on the bike. Swear they yelled at me.
No way. No way. Really?
Yeah. It's an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
They're very
I like those things lay out the echoes of things. You see like the free echoes, first waves and the whole way. Comes in dreams first and then you get the... Do you guys need me to do anything else? I actually think it sounds better than what it did before.
Yeah, it does, but
It's just one speaker. What do you do? Okay, yeah, so you go on. Yes, we're
Sounds actually good.
I'm ready when they're ready. I am ready.
And, I work in film video.
Well, Trish is there. Looks like he's the one here.
I saw a little bit of
Can you get the volume right? No, go down. That's it. Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, so this I met him here at the coffee shop.
If you want to call them in, because I don't want to keep them after.
This is a question to her. So and then this, she's like, "Do you want room? I have your bag." I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And I really met a stranger. It's a gorgeous place. And I turned to him.
So you're not reading this? I'm reading.
No, because that took 2 hours.
Oh yeah, so not a fingernail painter.
Oh my God, so Michelle's main part of the... That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Never mind.
Yeah, take it comfortable.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, he's a lot of music. Done so well with it. And then like the mom today, like football.
Twists, huh? Which kind? Lumbar, thoracic?
I don't think you exist.
Hmm?
I don't think you really exist.
I don't.
That's right. But you look like you exist.
Projection.